Today we have Miss Donnah Ciempka with us, currently the head of school at Ascot International School, Thailand, and director of the Australian Chamber of Commerce, Thailand.
I'm desperate to get to Mumbai, photograph India and its colour and its vibrancy. I love fabrics, I love patterns, I love colours and saris and everything about India I just love. There's a real synergy between Thailand and India, connection to an international education, but beautiful, authentic connection to the Indian culture. It's always been about challenge and growth. The greatest gift we can give anybody who works for us is the opportunity to grow. Even if you just inspire one child or one teacher or one human, you're leaving the world a better place. If you want to have a successful life and if you want to have a fulfilling career, you need to develop the yes attitude, the yes mindset. You say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. We are a school of 500 students and we are located in the suburbs of Bangkok. So what I love about Ascot is creating that sense of family, that sense of safety, that sense of inclusion. When you feel safe, you take risks. When children feel safe, they try new things. When adults feel safe, they become innovative. What is your superpower? What do you think you shine at? That's where we want you to learn more about, because innovation comes from success. I think the greatest challenge that education faces is understanding that every human being is different. And so one size fits all model doesn't work. But we're not educating kids for today's world. We're educating humans for the future. When I started teaching, we didn't even have computers in the classroom, and now every child has a device and they're connected to the internet. The greatest influence on teachers is their own educational experience. Some of the most fulfilled, interesting, and even wealthy people I know weren't successes at school, have started their own companies, have been innovators or leaders in their profession, or have chosen trades or industries where problem solving and critical thinking and all of those skills are actually the keys to their success. It doesn't matter what your achievements are. It's the person you are and finding the pathway that's the most important part about schooling and education. Children are not empty vessels that arrive to us and we don't crack their heads open and fill them up. They come to us with life experience. They've come to us with the schema of the world. And it's our jobs to educate the head, the heart, and the hands, and listen to them and give them agency and recognize that they're capable human beings and they're able to make discoveries. We're not teaching them to be thinkers. We're not teaching them to ask questions. Give me a solution. Give me an alternative. A chamber of commerce and business, and it's a community of people who come together, and we host different events for the members of the chamber and work with the other chambers in Thailand, CSR, their community and service. Just recently, we packed over 2,000 care packages that were delivered to orphanages across Thailand for the children in the orphanages. My heart always lies in women's rights, women's education and the opportunities for women, healthcare, sanitisation, expectations. AustCham is a corporate business organisation that provides wonderful networking opportunities. How can we use what we have to make Thailand better? Gender discrimination. Women have been oppressed, and for many generations. As a result of oppression, women don't see men as their competition. They see each other as competition. We know that as women there are layers and there are challenges. It's recognizing that. It's removing the barriers. Let's remove the barriers. Let's think about humans and let's create safe spaces for us all. I've been very blessed to have a very stable, loving relationship with my husband, and he has been my greatest supporter. For 5 years, he did the cooking, he did the cleaning, he did all the work so that I could focus on my career and invest the time and energy that I needed. Knowing who you are, knowing the country you come from, understanding your cultural heritage and history is vitally important. As women, we need to recognize that what we do, what we bring to the table is enough. The only person we're competing against is ourselves. And if you are someone who is compassionate, it's enough. You don't have to be a strong person. You can be a gentle, quiet person. And if you're a strong person, you don't have to work on your gentle side. You are enough.
Hello and welcome to WGF iTalks. Today we have Ms. Donnah Ciempka with us. Ms. Donnah has worked in the education industry for about 3 decades. She has served and held leadership roles in a wide range of schools, both internationally and nationally. She has also worked alongside universities, not-for-profit organizations, and government departments, aligning policy and pedagogy throughout Southeast Asia. Her desire to connect communities and people has led her to work with the joint Foreign Thailand Chamber of Commerce, supporting their schools and skills initiatives. In this interview, we will explore Ms. Donnah's various initiatives, her style of working in which she gives due importance to the communities and people, her vision and ambitions, and her plans and dreams for the future, for herself and for others, all through a session of questions and answers. It's a formal come informal chat while exploring various aspects of her personal and professional lives. Hello, Ms. Donnah. How are you?
Hello, and thank you. And what a lovely welcome. I did feel a bit old when you said 3 decades.
No, not at all.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Welcome. So, while I was researching on Thailand and Australia in general, I found a heap of interesting facts. I mean, relations between India and Thailand are rooted in history. And India and Australia had commercial ties dating back to the 18th century. Yeah. And talking directly about the education industry, education is Australia's largest service export to India.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's just, my research says this. I just found recently, yeah. And then it valued at $4.4 billion in 2022. And as of August 2023, there were 146,844 Indian student enrollments with Australian providers, which makes up approximately 17% of Australia's international student enrollments.
And that's actually really interesting data, because recently the Australian government under our new Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has launched an initiative of Australia's presence in Asia, and one of their key KPIs is education. And that excites me because for so long, when you look at, say, countries' exports, business relationships, corporate connections across country, it's been the big multinational companies, it's been supply chains and logistics. And to place education on the table is really exciting as someone whose whole life has revolved around education. And I think for me, one of the things that I think is quite often unrecognised by many people internationally is the rigour of Australian tertiary education and the level of qualification received in Australian universities, and then the worldwide recognition of that I think is quite profound.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. Yes.
And so I'm in a very fortunate position in my role as a head of school here in Bangkok and a head of an international school,
Right.
and a school that has many students who are ethnically Indian. And to see the journey of so many of our students and their educational careers and moving between countries. But then in my role as on the Australian Chamber of Commerce and looking at education as a global business or a corporate entity here in Thailand, there's over 180 international schools here in Thailand.
Okay.
And that shows that even within the Thai culture and the Thai business community, people are wanting that international, that global educational experience. And for me, being so lucky that I've worked with the International Baccalaureate for such a long time, I think India, there's a real synergy between Thailand and India because there are so many schools opening up, international or independent schools opening up, and it's the people of India are really seeking once again that connection to an international education. But I think the vast difference in India is there's still such a beautiful, authentic connection to the Indian culture and the way of being. And that's probably the biggest difference I see between international education in Thailand and in India.
Yes. Miss Donnah, I checked your professional brief also.
Yeah.
And of course I found it highly impressive and I really liked it. And I like the fact that believing in lifelong learning, you have continued to earn a number of qualifications while working in multiple roles at various levels. And as we move ahead in the conversation, I'm sure our viewers and I would have more reasons to be impressed and inspired.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, that's a lovely compliment.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome. Let's start with the questions now.
Sure.
I would try to paint a canvas of, for our viewers with several bright and inspiring colors of your highly inspirational life. You never know, someone in some corner of the world may be waiting for a single ray of hope and inspiration to turn around, or transform his or her personal, life. And this interview may serve its purpose. And we believe that if we are able to improve even one human being's life, our purpose is served. If we are able to improve more lives, then God has chosen us for a greater purpose. Yeah, so our viewers seek inspiration from personal challenges and triumphs too. So I would also slightly touch upon, your personal life and future aspirations, please.
Sure.
So here's my first question. Please tell us about yourself in your own words for our viewers.
Oh gosh, I had to describe myself in 5 words the other day, and I found that really difficult. I am somebody who has always, right from a very young age, has always loved the idea of teaching. I was one of those children who had my blackboard in my house, and my games would be around teaching, and many of my family members are teachers. And so it was always, I believe, a calling, and I do believe that to work in education is a calling. It's not just a job, and you have to passionately love humans and the way learning happens. And for me, that has really been the pieces that have guided my career. Whenever I've looked at a role or whenever I've looked at an opportunity, I always ask myself, is there the capability for me to grow initially children and help them flourish? And now as I'm in a leadership capacity, adults, what does that environment enable me to do that? And the second one is that environment going to challenge me in the sense that, is it going to present ideas or concepts or beliefs that I'm not quite ready for yet? And it's going to force me to dig deeper into who I am and dig deeper into what I believe. And so that's why my career has sort of done this roller coaster of a ride, because I've been led by those things rather than needing to be at the top or needing to be the head of the school or the CEO. It's always been about challenge and growth. And And so as a leader, that's something I also really firmly believe in, is that the greatest gift we can give anybody who works for us is the opportunity to grow. And I worked for an incredible leader once, and she said, the greatest compliment or the greatest success indicator that tells you you've done your job well is that you've grown somebody and they've been promoted. And yes, they may leave your institution. Yes, they may leave your organization, but they have grown and they are moving forward in their own way. And so I think what you said before about being an inspiration, and even if you just inspire one child or one teacher or one human, you're leaving the world a better place than we found it. And that for me is so important. I have a dear friend, and she said to me, if you want to have a successful life and if you want to have a fulfilling career, you need to develop the yes attitude, the yes mindset. And I sort of went, what do you mean? That seems a bit silly and a little bit irresponsible. She's like, no, you say yes. You say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. And she said, because the time you say no is an opportunity missed. And I said, yeah, but what if I don't like it? What if it's not successful? What if me saying yes to a job or an interview or a bowl of food and it's not a pleasant experience? She said, well, you won't do it again, will you? And I thought, what an incredible way to be. And so that is something I've really very much tried to bring to the table for me in my career. Say yes, even if you're scared, even if you think it mightn't taste very good. I ate a cricket last week when I was in Vietnam with the students. I said yes, I didn't want to, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Oh.
And I won't eat it again, but say yes. And so I think as women, we're very good at looking and saying, well, what about this? And what if I don't do this? Or what if this doesn't succeed? Or what about my family? Or what about my partner? And those pieces are factors. But giving yourself permission to say yes is, I believe, is liberating, but is necessary.
Right. Very inspiring indeed, Yeah, you're doing a great work. And I feel education and any type of learning is the base of all our achievements in the world. And teachers, gurus, and leaders in the education sector would continue to bring positive changes in the world forever. So in your career, you have consistently focused on constructing learning, so it is meaningful and purposeful. Yeah. So here's my next question, please. You are currently the head of school at Ascot International School. How has your experience been with the Ascot International School? What are your responsibilities there? What are the best things about the Ascot International School?
Ascot International is a glorious community, and that is the best thing about our school. So we are a school of 500 students, and we are located in the suburbs of Bangkok. So we're not downtown, we're out in the suburbs. So that means we have more of a rural environment. So it's silent here. You don't hear the motorbikes and all the noises. But we're also a 3-program IB World school. And what I love about Ascot and what we have worked at as a community is creating that sense of family, that sense of safety, that sense of inclusion. Because, when you feel safe, you take risks. When children feel safe, they try new things. When adults feel safe, they become innovative. And learning is about trialing new things. And you may fail and you may not get the answer right the first time. That's okay, because you keep trying, because it's okay to not be right the first time every time. And so we've worked hard to create an environment where learning sits at the centre of what we do. Our decision making is based around what's best for our students' needs. But in the same breath, we value our teachers as learners. We've created a new appraisal framework at Ascot where the whole purpose is teachers as researchers. So instead of looking at our teachers and saying, you're not doing this right and you're not doing this right, we say, what are you doing well? What do you think What is your phenomenal? What makes you phenomenal? What is your superpower? What do you think you shine at? That's where we want you to learn more about, because innovation comes from success. Innovation doesn't come from deficit. And every teacher I've ever met wakes up in the morning and says, let's give it our absolute best. There's not a teacher in the world who wakes up and says, today I choose to be an ordinary teacher. They wake up prepared to give their students the best. So let's celebrate their best and let's acknowledge growth, because what that then does is it shows our children that we have strengths, we have next steps. We are constantly on a growth cycle. We will achieve something, but there's always a way to make it better or to move on. And if we instill that notion in our students and in our community, then they are lifelong learners. They are constantly okay to seek new information and not be 100% right, and to sit in that ambiguity of working things out. I think something that I've noticed with our students, and even myself, since COVID and since technology, I want answers now, and I want it now, and I want my coffee now, and I want my TV now, and I want to know things now, and I want the jobs done. But what we know is learning doesn't happen like that. It's the collective struggle of grasping a new idea, and you've got to be okay with not having it now. So we've worked really hard at having that sit at the centre of what we do at Ascot. And I think for me, the thing I love the most about Ascot, and why I've chosen Ascot for my family, because my son is at Ascot, is we're a family. And we really are a family. And we often say, in families, people don't get on all the time. Sometimes in families, you can have pretty brutal conversations and you can not always see eye to eye, but with family, we forgive each other. With family, we move past that and we work towards that goal. And our interactions as a school community need to be the same. That, yes, we trust each other, we're there for each other, but we forgive each other and we love each other as we grow together to be better people. And so how lucky am I that that's my job?
Mm-hmm.
I won't talk all the budgets and all the other pieces that go with running a school or running an organisation. But, for me, when I walk in the door each day and our kids are coming through the gate and they're happy to be there, and they're happy to see us, and they come and they put their arms around you and give you a hug, I think, yep, we're changing school. Last week, I had a family visit the school and one of our students came up and gave me a hug. And the father said, wow, when I went to school, if you saw the principal, you were worried because you were in trouble. And they gave hugs, and I went, and that's the difference, because when you feel safe and you feel like you belong, you learn.
Right. Wow. And I'm sure the Ascot International School is happy, lucky, and proud to have you as their head.
Some days I think they are. Some days I'm sure they're like, what is that woman doing? But that's life, isn't it?
No, but your experiences and inherent desire to do good for others through education and learning, your leadership skills and insightful ideas would help the school, and the students would be able to achieve more and have a bright future. And I know you have dedicated your life to improve education in multiple ways at various national and international institutions. However, I also know that it is not easy, as easy as it sounds. Without matching leadership qualities, many people find themselves with a lot of passion and desire to do good in the society and the community, but without being able to move ahead or achieve something concrete. So let me ask you my next question, please.
Sure.
You are known as a dynamic leader who has worked in the education sector for more than 25 years. During your inspirational career, you have driven powerful teaching and learning practices that have positively impacted and defined how we see education today. You have also worked with a focus on curriculum design, instructions, academic research, and collaboration. What do you think is wrong about the education of today in the world? What is right about the education of today in the world? What must change?
Oh, good question. How long have we got?
Thank you.
I think for me, I think the greatest challenge that education faces is two things. Is one, understanding that every human being is different. And so one size fits all model doesn't work. And that the world's changing, that our needs, our students' needs, humanity's needs are different, and that education absolutely has to be forward facing. I had the incredible privilege of working under some just inspirational women in my career, and one of my first principals, she sat me down back in 1998 and she said to me, Donna, I want you to think about the world your class are graduating. So my students were 6 years old at this stage, and she said, think about what that world is going to be like. And she said, now think about what they need to be able to thrive in that world. And it was the first time anyone had made me realize that we're not educating kids for today's world. We're educating humans for the future. When I started teaching, we didn't even have computers in the classroom, and now every child has a device and they're connected to the internet. There are degrees. My friend's daughter has just finished a Bachelor of Gaming Design, and she's a gamer, and she's designing games. Now, the most creative avenue when I went to school was probably a Bachelor of Arts. So the world is changing. The mindsets, the understanding, and the skills that our students need to have is vastly different. And recognizing that is the key to making education better. The biggest challenge we have is that what we know is that the greatest influence on teachers is their own educational experience. And there was nothing wrong with what happened when I went to school. It just was not preparing me for the world that our students are entering into. And that's where I think we have this push and pull. Because as humans and as educators, we know it works for us. We're educated. We have a great job, but it doesn't work for everyone. And recognizing that and shaping practice to better prepare our students, but also too, I think it's looking at what society deems as a successful education. I'm not sure, I feel maybe we're of a similar age, but when I went to school, you had to get a great mark when you finished high school.
Definitely, yes.
Then led into what university degree, and in many ways, the judgment of whom you were as a person was based on, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you were a great person, and your parents were amazing parents. And I still claim that those people who were academically successful at school and then went on to incredibly high-performing careers, congratulations. But we know that the world is vastly different. Some of the most fulfilled, interesting, and even wealthy people I know weren't successes at school, have started their own companies, have been innovators or leaders in their profession, or have chosen trades or industries where problem solving and critical thinking and all of those skills are actually the keys to their success. And so for me, that's what I love about what we do now, is that it doesn't matter what your achievements are. It's the person you are and finding the pathway that's the most important part about schooling and education. And I say to our students, I want you to work hard. I want you to get the best out of your schooling as possible, because that provides you choices. The greatest failing of our education system is that if you don't do well at school, your choices are limited. So while the system is what we have, we work within it, we do our best, but we also find ways to flourish and grow. So when we have students that leave us, they know who they are. They know the way they work. They know how to pick careers that they're suited to rather than careers that the world thinks are appropriate. And so that for me is what I love. And I think realistically, the future of education is recognizing the diversity of humanity. And it's, learning to communicate, which is reading and writing and speaking. Learning to mathematics and being able to function in a world and be able to apply those skills will never change. But it's how we apply those skills that for me is crucial. And when you look at, one of my greatest frustrations is when people call them soft skills: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, being reflective, being able to self-manage, knowing yourself as a learner. They're not the soft skills. They're the pieces that make you thrive in an ever-changing world. And so for me, that shift towards calling them A, the core skills, and B, ensuring that our students have those opportunities is key to the future. We're also living in a world full of inequality. Our natural resources are being depleted. We are still dealing with conflict around the world, and there's discrimination. And so an education that's committed to recognizing the commonality of humans and working towards a more peaceful world is also something I think is absolutely crucial in our education, and more crucial in international schools, because these are students and children of privilege who've come from families who can provide them the life experience, who can provide them the opportunities. So it's their responsibility to use their education to give back.
Right. You have put it so beautifully, and aptly.
Oh, thank you.
And if only all education leaders of the world would see things from the right perspective, all of us can so easily create a better world. And I don't think it is difficult. I also sometimes feel that the perspectives of students are the right perspectives, as they're on the receiver's end. And, we grown-ups are on the giver's end. So we must listen more, observe more, and try to implement things from the student's perspective. And I
couldn't agree more. And this is the truth. Our children don't see difference.
Yes.
Our children don't see the layers that we as adults place on perspective. Our kids see humans. Our kids see people. Our kids see a world that needs help. And you're right, listening to our kids and listening and watching them is so important.
Right, yeah. You have had a vast experience at various levels of teaching. So you have taught as a primary school teacher, as an art teacher, and now you are the head of a school. So what learnings did you gather on your way up? And are all teachers the same, and must all teachers teach the same way, with the same strategy, or the manners and strategies of teaching must change according to the age, type, and subjects of the students?
I think, yes, that I am really lucky to have had a very diverse career. I'm also really lucky to have been able to take time out of my career to be a mother. And that was a choice. And so I've had the best of both worlds. And for me, the fundamental piece that is linked through all of my experience from I started as a year 3 classroom teacher all the way through to now is relationships. You're working with human beings, and the relationships you form with your class, then your school and your community and your peers are the fundamental pieces that I believe keep education where it needs to be. I remember one day thinking and looking at my daughter and thinking, I just can't possibly love you any more than, like, my heart's going to explode. I love you so much. And then I thought, well, every child I teach, their parents feel the same way about them as I feel about my daughter. And it was this aha moment for me where I went, wow, I have the privilege of working with everybody else's babies. They're always our babies. Even when they're 23 and they ring you for money, they're still our babies. And And that was a big change because it made me keep thinking, and in particular as I moved into curriculum leading and then into head of school is, and I say this even now to our teachers, do you know our students or your students well enough to teach them? And are you placing relationships on the table? Now, yes, I expect educators to know their reading and their writing and where they're at academically, but I also want to know what their favourite colours are. I want to know what they had for dinner. I want to know what their pet's name is, because then you're investing in that child. And it's those elements of information that make the difference. And so whether you teach 3-year-olds or 19-year-olds, I think that key to relationships is fundamental. But I think there are two other really key elements to successful education and educators across the spectrum. And that's recognising the inherent knowledge and agency, or having a strong image of the child. Children are not empty vessels that arrive to us and we don't crack their heads open and fill them up. They come to us with life experience. They've come to us with the schema of the world. And it's our jobs to educate the head, the heart, and the hands, and listen to them and give them agency and recognise that they're capable human beings and they're able to make discoveries. So often we make a presumption that all children don't know what X is because we've decided they don't know what X is. Well, maybe we need to ask them. Maybe we need to talk to them and find out and work out what their knowledge is, so then we can teach them and move forward. And I think that is fundamental with 2-year-olds and 18-year-olds. I was talking to a 16-year-old recently, and she'd made some poor choices in her behaviour. And I said, where's this coming from? She said, I'm so bored. I'm so bored because we've done this again and again and again. And I thought, yeah, fair enough. No, I don't agree with her behaviour, but her choices, I don't agree with the choices she made with her behaviour, but she was telling the teachers something. She was telling them that I know this. Give me more. Push me harder. Help me do better. Help me go beyond what I'm capable of. And so that image of the student and that genuine respect that they are these wonderful minds that we get the privilege to mould and expose things to, rather than, make them conform, is the fundamental principle that I think has to underpin all educators. And the final piece, I think, is that element of critical thinking. Mm-hmm. When I went to school, it was memorization. Here are the facts, learn them. Do this. Why? Because. Why do I have to carry the one when I double? Because you do. That's the process. And we accepted it and we were compliant and we did what we were told. The more we understand, the more we think, the more we ask questions. And I often make the analogy to teachers that if I said to you, get on a bus, sit on the bus, stay on the bus, I will let you know when it's time to get off the bus, but only when it's time to get off the bus. How are you going to be feeling? And the responses are like anxious, a bit scared. Every time the bus stops, so you look around, do I get off here? Do I not know what to do? It's the same thing with education. If we just demand our children accept what we tell them and regurgitate it and give it back to us in the words we would like to see it in, we're not teaching them to be thinkers. We're not teaching them to ask questions. We're not teaching them to go, well, hang on a minute. Why am I on the bus? Why do I need to be on the bus? What's the point of me being on the bus? Stop it. And so it is so important to continually, right from the beginning, say to children, why do you think that? What makes you say that? Justify your opinion. If you think homework's terrible, tell me why and give me a solution. Give me an alternative. Because yes, it's annoying when children then come up with lots of reasons why they shouldn't clean their bedroom. And having raised 3 children and who've been through educational frameworks like the IB, and I say clean your bedroom and they've got 15 reasons why they shouldn't, that can be annoying. But that's how the world gets changed. That's how our education is future facing, because we're encouraging our students to ask more, question more, ponder more. So yeah, image of the child, relationships, and critical thinking, I believe, are the three pieces.
Yeah, very true. Teachers and students must understand each other as much as possible. I graduated in philosophy, and I wonder what would happen if there were perfect correlation between employees and employers and citizens and politicians, and even as we are discussing today, students and teachers. And then I mentally start constructing a perfect world, perfect countries, perfect people, perfect schools, while wondering how amazing it would be. Um, but then coming back to our questions, of course, it cannot be all schools and students all the time. You also happen to take interest in other responsibilities. You are connected, they're all connected. And in a way, both complement each other. What I mean to say is, you also hold a position of the director of the Australian Chamber of Commerce, Thailand. What are
Yes.
your responsibilities at AustCham, and how has your experience been with AustCham so far?
Oh, it's been such a glorious experience. And I originally joined AustCham because we moved to Thailand and I didn't know anybody. And so I joined to meet fellow Australians and connect to people in Thailand. And I met an organisation that, whilst it's called a Chamber of Commerce, and business and the workforce is part of what it does, it's a community of people who come together. And so my area of focus within the chamber is I lead the diversity and inclusion subcommittee. And so there's a group of us who are working, and we host different events for the members of the chamber and work with the other chambers in Thailand in that area. So we've been fortunate to run some question and answer or conversation panels with the International Labour Organization, with some other charitable organisations, exploring the way in which the Australian Embassy, looking at the work they're doing in Southeast Asia and ASEAN to really focus in on labour laws and equity for people living within the country. As you would know, with many ASEAN countries, there are levels of education, levels of work experience, levels of poverty. Looking at ways education can essentially support people living in this world and try and bring greater opportunities for all. One of an exciting initiative that's coming up shortly is we're partnering with an organisation called We Do, which is a mentoring program for women, women leaders who then mentor young up-and-coming leaders or underprivileged women who want to learn. And so that we are offering training to our members if they would like to, so they then can give of their time back to growing the community.
Okay.
Australia is an incredible country and I love living in Australia, but the gap between the haves and the have-nots is nowhere near as prevalent or as obvious as in Thailand, as in China, as in other Asian countries. And I don't think you can live in another country and not recognise the incredible privilege that we have with the education, with the work we have. And so I firmly believe we need to give back. And so another part of the chamber that I love is their CSR, their community and service initiatives. And that was really what lured me into the chamber, working with the chamber to, just recently we packed over 2,000 care packages that were delivered to orphanages across Thailand for the children in the orphanages, and working with community groups to paint a school or to set up and provide education. For me, my heart always lies in women's rights, women's education and the opportunities for women, because healthcare, sanitisation, expectations, work, all of those avenues are so more difficult for women of poverty. And so that's something I really am very interested in working and supporting. And I'm working with a charity at the moment through AustCham, where we are looking at fundraising to supply sanitary products and sanitary support and education for women in poverty, because I don't believe we've ever been in this position, but as a woman, you choose to feed your family or to take care of your own sanitary needs. You'll feed your family. And so that's what I love about AustCham, is the fact that whilst it's a corporate business organisation, that provides wonderful networking opportunities for the corporate world. The members are also about giving back, and AustCham is about looking out and saying, how can we use what we have to make Thailand better?
Wow, very interesting.
And wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing how everything is connected together. And as a matter of fact, at World Growth Forums, we are committed to create a network of dynamic leaders, for envisioning, creating ideas and their implementations. And the end goal is a better world where everyone feels included and part of the process, while constructively contributing to growth of all, self and others. So you are quite dynamic and connected with educational leaders worldwide. Is it possible to create some sort of academic system worldwide, picking the best of all systems from each country?
What I do believe is, yes, there is an educational framework that provides the best. And right now, I think it exists, and that is the International Baccalaureate. So the International Baccalaureate came out of a framework of looking many, many years ago at the migratory groups in the world and saying, well, what are their needs? At the time there were diplomatic families, missionary families, military families. Those children were moving from national education system to national education system. And as a result of the work done by UNESCO and the whole notion of the IB came into fruition. And the IB is about educating global citizens who want to make the world better through their learning. And it is a program that does that. And what it starts when our children are young, and we have the PYP, and we move then into the middle years and then into the IB diploma. And there are elements, and it is very academically rigorous, as well as embodying those pieces. But for me, the end product of the IB, which is creating learners who are caring, reflective, risk takers, principled, communicators, thinkers, inquirers, people who are resilient, people who look around this world, people who are internationally minded, is the best we have at this given time. The challenge with the IB, and the IB would be the first to say that, is it's an expensive program, and it is one that is prevalent across international and national schools around the world. But if you were to then look at the local population, whether it's the Thai Ministry of Education or Chinese schools or Indian schools, the budgets are not there for the IB. But what is happening at the moment across the world are pockets of work and schools that are providing those same kind of frameworks for students. So you mentioned at the start that I was able and very fortunate to do some work with the Joint Foreign Chamber of Commerce here in Thailand. And yes, I very much came in on the tail end of their incredible work, and they have worked with the Ministry of Education to create a framework of teacher training. And the teacher training is designed to provide an education for those students who come from the most underprivileged backgrounds.
Okay.
Students whose parents cannot probably find the money to put them on a bus to go to school, or students who must leave school at a very young age to work to provide food for the family. And so saying, well, a formal education, understanding Shakespeare, is probably not going to ever change the world for these students or help them break the cycle of poverty. And so the Joint Foreign Chamber of Commerce has worked and has now 7 schools across Thailand that are looking and are changing the way they teach the students to a more science, technology, a STEM-based approach, but with an enterprise focus. So these students are learning their own businesses. They're making their own soaps. They're learning the science to create their own fertilizer. They're then having lessons in how to package it, how to market it, how to sell it, how to then create a sustainable business for themselves. And it's their one opportunity to create their future. And I think that's absolutely glorious. And when you look at the parallels and the principles of the IB, and then you look at the work that BMA schools are happening here, and I know it's happening in China with different organizations, it's the same thing. Relationships, building into kids so that they feel loved and cared for, recognizing their agency. They may come from an underprivileged background, but what they know, their life skills, their experience, the image of those children is profound. And then it's the critical thinking and giving them the skills and the ability to create their own businesses and in a way, take their future back.
How wonderful. Yeah, discussions like this help create more ideas, new ideas, then which lead to betterment in so many ways in the world. And this is the reason we feel that networking works. And however, through my own experiences, I understand that easier said than done. And challenges are everywhere. So I would like to phrase my next question in the following way. Though it's easy to find women at the lower rung in the education sector, not many women are in the leadership role. You are the head of the school. I'll ask you this question as a fellow woman to highlight our specific challenges, which generally only women, we women are able to understand. We have to fight double to make our own space, our own destiny, and our own successes. How has your experience been? Has your experience been different? If yes or no, how? And what ordinary or extraordinary did you do to make way for yourself and then to announce that you have arrived?
Wow, what a big question for late in the afternoon. Good question. And I do think you're absolutely right. And I think probably the greatest piece in all of that is that as a result of gender discrimination, women have been oppressed for many generations. And so as a result of oppression, women don't see men as their competition. They see each other as competition. And the reality is that is not the case. And so for me, I work very hard to dispel that myth. Her success is not your failure. She is not your competition. I noticed it as a mother. Everyone's babies were out crawling, out walking, out doing what my baby did. As I've rose through my career, it's the women who are trying to do too many things and giving off this illusion of perfection. I am very, very proud in the fact that I am not perfect, and I never will be. Don't tell my husband. And I work very, very hard to have women supporting women. Men are not the enemy. They just were lucky to be born men, and history has led their journey. What we need to do is recognise the women who've gone before us, the work they've done, and work very hard to grow the next generation of women and pave the way for them. I believe that mentorship is the key to leadership, and in particular, women moving forward. I sit here because I've had incredible people take me under their wing, right from that educator I shared earlier, take me under their wing and grown me and guided me and offered advice. And I do the same. I still have a mentor, but I mentor those around me too, because we know that that's how we learn. We know that learning happens through relationships. We know that learning happens through currency and listening to each other and recognizing each other's journey. But it's also that security to ask questions and to push ourselves deeper. And so for me, that is fundamental in women's leadership. One of the things I really don't like is we know there are challenges. Okay, we know that as women there are layers and there are challenges, and I'm blessed to be a woman who speaks English and comes from a certain background, that there are more layers on other women. I have it easier than some. But it's recognizing that, it's removing the barriers, but it's also not vilifying the men. I can't, it's not an us or them, it's a we. And I quite often choose not to attend women in leadership events because I'm fearful that they become the male bashing. And it's not about that. It's about saying, all right, there's inequity everywhere. Let's work to move forward, because as much as I've experienced inequity, a woman of colour has experienced more. A person in a wheelchair has experienced more. A transgender person has experienced more. Or in certain cultures, an unmarried person has experienced more. And so we have to recognise it's not about the us and them of men and women. It's about, let's remove the barriers. Let's think about humans and let's create safe spaces for us all.
Awesome. And I can tell you like how inspiring it is to see and hear success stories of other women, especially when I work in the industry where, researching and bringing stories of both men and women, both men and women leaders and entrepreneurs is my daily job. And I find inspirations from those stories. But they also reveal how challenging it is for women leaders and entrepreneurs to make their mark. But then, of course, for all kinds of challenges, there's family. They are the silver lining, around every dark cloud. So please tell us who all are there in your family, how important is family for you, and who supports you the most in your personal and professional lives.
So I am very lucky that I have 3 beautiful children, and I have Emily. My eldest daughter, Emily, is an adult. She's 23 and she lives in Australia. And then my next child, Claudia, is 21 and lives in Australia. And then our son, Oscar, is here with us in Bangkok. And he's a student at Ascot and a very happy student of Ascot, except on Tuesdays when I make him do fitness classes. And I've been very blessed to have a very stable, loving relationship with my husband, and he has been my greatest supporter. When we moved to Australia after being overseas for a while, he chose to be the stay-at-home parent and I went to work. And so for 5 years, he did the cooking, he did the cleaning, he did all the work so that I could focus on my career and invest the time and energy that I needed. When the girls were smaller, I took time. As a couple, for us, that was important. We, both of us, when it was my turn and his, wanted time with our kids. Some families don't always go down that route. Some families don't have the luxury. But for us, that was a choice we made, and one that we're really grateful we did. But it's give and take in a relationship, isn't it? And there are times when I take the backward seat for Paul to do what he needs to do, and then vice versa. But I will say, probably for the last 10 years, he would be the person who's ensured we've eaten and we have vegetables, and has cared and does and makes sure that things run smoothly so that I can do what I need to do.
Wow. You're lucky, and so is your family. And, our work may be our passion, but then all of us need a strong backing, a cushion, which would help us in case we trip and fall. And we all face ups and downs in our lives. A loving family makes them so much easier to manage. This brings me to a very interesting question. If you had absolute power, which 3 things would you change in the education sector of Thailand? And which 3 things would you change in the education sector of the world?
Wow, what a glorious question. I think in Thailand it would be access to quality education for all, in the sense that if it's a magic fairy one, so I'm going for the big one, but to be able to provide all students with the level of education that happens within many international schools, that the teacher training's there, that the facilities and the resources are there for them, and that everyone has the same access. That for me is Thailand, but probably transcends into the world too. But I think for me, the biggest piece that I would love to see worldwide in education is the recognition that not all roads lead to Western education, that knowing who you are, knowing the country you come from, understanding your cultural heritage and history is vitally important, that language and the understanding of language and identity is vastly important, and recognizing that not all roads need to lead to university, that you can create a journey and be successful in your life without the outside bits. I think that would be my dream.
So nice. And I also feel sometimes that if all of us could, share with each other which three things we would change in our sector of profession, and three general things we would, change in the world. And all of us try to actually change one thing in our life, the life would definitely, be a much better place. And then it's important to ask people and collect as many ideas as possible on what do they wish to change for a better world. Thank you very much for your answer. And now this brings me to my last question.
Okay.
Please share your message for fellow teachers, students, and women worldwide who might pick threads of inspiration from your life story and weave their own success stories in the future.
My grandmother was a very wise woman, and she said to me once when I was in a very challenging time, she said, "Donna, you are enough. This is hard. The end is not in sight, but you've got the strength and the tenacity and all the skills to get through it. You are enough." And I then attended a wonderful seminar by a lecturer called Dr. Fran Perlman, who works in women in leadership. And she opened her presentation with that quote, "You are enough." And I do believe that as women, we need to recognize that what we do, what we bring to the table is enough. The only person we're competing against is ourselves. And if you are someone who is compassionate, that's enough. You don't have to be a strong person. You can be a gentle, quiet person. And if you're a strong person, you don't have to work on your gentle side. You are enough. And so, yeah, that's my message and my belief. And some days I say it to myself, "You are enough, you are enough, you are enough. We'll get through this, you're enough." And then other days it's different. But we need to acknowledge that everyone wakes up and tries their hardest. And
Those are great words, yeah.
Mm.
Those are great words, and then great advices, and great source of inspiration actually. That is also a great way to finish this interview, and I'm so happy we could generate so many ideas talking together. Ms. Donnah, yeah, it was such an enlightening and inspiring talk.
Thank you. And I've thoroughly enjoyed, I don't often like to talk about myself, but it's been lovely, and I really enjoyed your questions, and you made me think, and I love that.
Oh, so nice to know about this. Yeah. Thank you very much actually for this interview. And, I've been talking with several world leaders from multiple industries and professions around the world. With every interview, I take, I am disclosed to new learnings, fresh ideas, something different, interesting, and powerful. You're so down to earth, yet you share and experience things so intelligently. And also you have such a sweet personality. I would like to work on many ideas, you have shared here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this conversation. It was great experience talking to you. Personally, I and the entire team of World Good Forums wish you all the best in life.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure your vision, your focus, your dedication, your endeavors, would continue to create more paths for you, your students, and people in general. Because I believe in chain reaction. One positively, transforms into multiple. One positivity transforms into multiple forms of positivity. Likewise, if your guidance and leadership bring excellence into your students, they would also create multiple forms of excellence all around the world. So thank you very much for talking to World Good Forums. Good day to you. Bye bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.